Hey Josh, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Kira. How you doing? Thanks for having me here.
I'm good. Thank you for coming in, kicking it with Kira. So for everybody listening, Josh is a trainee who is an optimization coach who loves psychology and philosophy. So Josh, you since you're from Trinidad, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, well, of course where you're from, but how it is growing up there and what you do. You can explain optimism coach a little bit more.
All right. Yeah, so for people who don't know, Trinidad and Tobago is the southernmost island in the Caribbean. It's an English-speaking nation. It comprises two islands, Trinidad and Tobago, but it's one nation. Um, I, I just live a cool, chill life like everyone else. I have a background in law enforcement and intelligence and being a strategic analyst working for the government. And I have a background in photography that's in, I guess, the capacity of being almost fully professional, but it was my day job. And I guess I could say that for me, over time doing that kind of work, I just found that sometimes just because you go into a particular career, you don't have to commit to it completely because you're just good at it, or it feels like it's all that you know, and you shouldn't try to uproot yourself when you get older. So for me, I decided to switch myself across to personal development, being a psychology student, and I'm currently in a program, a one-year program to coach people into performance optimization. And what that is a process of helping people refine certain behaviors that they have during the course of their day, and kind of have like these on and off switches for behavioral change. So when they are met with some type of adversity, they can train themselves to have an adequate response. And optimization coaches tend to help people be more resilient on their own and help them build what I've learned is what you will call like a masterpiece date. So know how to plan the ideal day. Know when it's the best time for you specifically as an individual to eat food, wake up, drink your water, meditate, and how to plan your day to do certain blocks of work. So yeah, that's just to speak about it very lightly.
I think that's so interesting, especially how you went from working in higher intelligence to now transition over to psychology, and now you're able to help other people. How are you able to structure your actual life and so you can assist other people?
So I'm in a bit of a unique situation where I kind of piled up some vacation leave because I kind of committed, I should say, into some degree overcommitted to my job for a number of years. So I piled up a bunch of vacation leave. But even without that happening, I think if people want to kind of make a switch across to another career, one of the first things I realized that was necessary for me, I should say that was very helpful, is to identify what your skill sets are, identify what you are passionate about, and within the organizational structure of the workplace that you are currently in, identify what sections, what departments, what certain areas of the organization can utilize those skill sets that you can develop that is required for the other field of work that you need, or I should say that you want to get into. Now, that is something like I personally would say is like a sustainable shift. It's not like just drastically cutting your roots and uprooting yourself and getting out. I would only say that people should do something like that if, it's a matter of life and death, or like, your stress levels are hitting a point where, your mental faculties are just waning. So when people are in the process of reinventing themselves, it's important to set aside some time to figure out what your ideal self is supposed to be and align that with who you are now and see and just kind of present yourself in such a way that you start to assume the roles in whatever little capacity that you can of the ideal self that you are aiming to become. So yeah, that's what I think about that.
I think that's amazingly put, especially because sometimes it does take like self-discovery after like transition to a new career and figuring out what you are passionate about, because especially in this time frame, I think a lot of us are really realizing to the highest level that time waits for nobody and that you have to live your life to the fullest. I know with me, my personal experience as well, I had been in my last job for 5 years, and this pandemic really changed my perspective on so many different things. And I ended up losing my job at the end of the year to extremely poor management. But I feel like that was one of the biggest blessings that God bestowed upon me, because it really showed me and opened my eyes to, hey, I really want to do more, and I feel like I have more to bring to the table. So it really transitioned me into starting a whole different career and like really sitting down with myself and doing a lot of self-discovery within me to see like, hey, what do you really want to do with your life, you know? And so it really was I feel like anything that can be a lesson can turn into an amazing blessing. And so I think it's really important that we all take the time to see like, hey, if we're like miserable where we're at or it's not really fulfilling, like try to figure out, hey, what it is the next transition, not just leap into it unless you are kind of forced into it. But I think it is something amazing for like self-growth.
Yeah, most definitely. And you hit a very solid point there where you kind of have to pay attention to those details, and unless it is that you are forced into a position, forced into a situation, it is your responsibility, I would say. You're morally obligated to yourself to get or aim towards the best for you and for your life. I mean, life could go in any moment's notice. You can be relieved of your existence. And to me, it makes no sense squandering any second of your waking day and even of your sleeping days and your sleeping nights as well towards something that isn't aligned with who you really are as a person. And I think that it's not an excuse to be jumping from one thing to the other and not stay focused on something. Because a lot of times when people could just say, you know, I'm just hopping between this and that because I'm going with the flow and I want to figure out what's good for me. People, that could tend to turn into an excuse for not persevering and not testing your limits and pushing through your comfort zone and seeing what you're really made of. I think that there is a threshold that everyone does have, but at the same time, we need to take time to understand if it is that you realize that there is stagnant development in your vocation or in the things that you're engaged in. To me, that is an essential sign that it's time to move on. If you have invested time in yourself to grow and to build and to be better, and you don't have that, then yeah, just let that go and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to having your mental health intact. Mental health is definitely the key to living a happy, healthy life and a healthy body. And so let's talk a little bit about philosophy, like the philosophy of the mind, like the nature of the mind and how it relates to the body.
Yeah. So as it relates to philosophy, so I mean every culture, every social group kind of abides to some kind of philosophy on how human behavior should be dictated. And for me, I tend to just identify with what makes the most sense to me, what is very straightforward, and what seems to be the most helpful in dealing with adversity. because a lot of philosophical concepts, I should say, can be very culture specific. And whilst it could be good for some people, it just cannot resonate well with a grieving father or a single mother or, a child who has been abandoned. Some concepts of philosophies on how people in very specific situations, they just tend to not resonate well because it could sound lofty, it could sound very optimistic, but it doesn't help a person resolve or point them in a direction to find the resolution that they're searching for. And having paid attention to different types of philosophies, and I'm by no means a philosophy graduate, but I realized that the concept and the practice of Stoicism has proven to be one of the most consistent and very clear forms of philosophical guidance that a person can implement in their life. Now, Stoicism was the early, or I should say the foundational roots of it was found in Greece, and it was mainly adopted by a lot of the philosophers of that time, and because of the different schools of thought that they had. And it was also seen in the Roman Empire. Now, before I just kind of explain what Stoicism is, I would just also preface it with this, that a lot of philosophies at their core tend to have the same message, but it's the very unique flavors is what people tend to get tied up with, and they tend to kind of miss the message. And a lot of challenges and a lot of issues tend to get broad brushed under certain concepts, and people miss the core message. But so I would not still diminish the value of or posture one philosophy over the other. So going back to Stoicism, now Stoicism in its core sense really just basically tells people accept what you can in terms of what you are faced with in the world, and make concerted efforts to fix in what you are able to do. And to me, it's very straightforward, because wasting time on things that are frivolous, spending and dispensing your energy to things that you are incapable or you don't have the resources yet to affect in a positive or a negative manner, it's a waste of your time and energy. And there are lots of different concepts within Stoicism that truly resonate with people. And, so I think that everyone does practice Stoicism in their life, but we just don't practice it all the time. So I don't know, what would you say would be your core philosophy, Kira, in terms of in how you approach life and how you engage certain activities or adversities?
I definitely think what you said, the core reasoning behind the Stoicism one, especially of I'm the type of person, I can try to change what I can, and then I put everything else into my faith, because it really does go back to your mental health, because I used to have extremely high anxiety, like things that I couldn't change, I used to harbor on. Things that actually had no significance, I used to harbor on. And so it really does take up a lot of your mind state, where you can't really live in your now, in your full being of in the present moment. And that's really the most important thing that you can do as a person, to live in your now. Of course, set goals, of course, think about the future, but still spend the majority of the time living in the present. And I really think that, because I am generally a very optimistic person, a very positive person. I feel as though a lot of people have other different factors within themselves in their daily environment that might not allow them in their mind state to be as positive as I may be, but I think it really is a mindset that anybody can really change, because even myself, I have to sometimes go back and reset myself, because my natural mind state of a lot of people is thinking something negative, but then you could switch it on in your mind to think something positive, it really does change your whole outlook on life, on things. And so the things that we can handle and change within this moment, do it, try to set a plan for something going forward, but not really overthink it, overanalyze it, overstress about it, because it really does, at the end of the day, it all takes a toll on ourselves and our body. So I really do like that core one of you said, because it does stem down to the nature of the mind in relationship to our body.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and if you really also think about the fact that your body is the one thing you can control for the most part, other than your involuntary bodily movements like your heart beating and your breathing, which you do have some degree of control, but a lot of it is just kind of automatic. Now, when it comes to the way how you use your body as the vessel for which you navigate in the world, in the physical world, I should say. The guiding principle I've realized within one of the guiding principles within Stoicism is that the ultimate thing that you really truly do have control over is choice. The choice to choose, the choice on how you react to situation. And you can have control of your body in different regards: how you tattoo it, how you scar it, how you tend to it, shower it, wash it clean, and whatnot. And if you aren't so blessed or fortunate to have all your limbs, have all your senses intact, you still ultimately have the choice on how to adapt and how to make good of situations and to give yourself advantages despite your diminished capability because of the manner in which you were born, or some unfortunate incident has occurred in your life. And I think that with that understanding that your body can carry you places, but it could only carry you so far, if you take that into like a larger scale and like you open your mind to like a macrocosm of how you interact with the rest of the world, taking that understanding of how your body can function in the world. If you are limited in your capacity to influence people to change their lifestyles, or influence people to be courageous and speak their truth, if you are incapable of standing up for change and having the courage to demand justice in your life, and you are faced with adversity and you are unable to really bring about that change that you so think that you need to see, you can have one or two choices. You can persevere, or you can accept that the world is not able to accommodate such changes, and you can spend that time figuring out another method, or realize, or take time to realize or to find out that something else is more urgent to deal with that issue. And it really speaks to like the four cardinal virtues of Stoicism, which is prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. And it's really, you want to make sure you have wisdom, make sure you have a sense of morality on how you engage things, and have the courage to make certain decisions and face the day, and to practice moderation, knowing to temper yourself in terms of the excesses that you would want to indulge, or I should say overindulge in. So yeah, I completely get you with that relation between the mind and the body and mental health and how we treat ourselves, for sure. It's like, we are masters of our body, and in some form or fashion we should be masters of how the body interacts with the world. So yeah, I completely get you on that.
Yeah, I think you definitely made some extremely great pointers. I definitely think that temperance is extremely important in morality is extremely important. I feel as in the society today, it's a very thin line between morality when it comes to between right and wrong and good and bad behavior on many levels of things. We live, as you know, as you watch the news or just people being around, the level of morals that people exude nowadays, I don't feel as though it's as high as it should be or that it used to be. I do have a question. I know you mentioned like different methods of people being able to, I guess, try to, how can I say it, look into their inner self and find, I guess, a peace of mind within themselves. Something that I do that has helped me to live in the now has been in the morning when I first wake up. I always just say a prayer like, thank you, Lord, for waking me up, because that's gratitude within itself of being thankful to see another day. But I actually do a gratitude prayer. And once I started doing this gratitude prayer, I do a guided one. I just go to YouTube and put guided meditation, gratitude meditation, 5 minutes. And I take 3 to 5 minutes out of my day and I listen to it and I repeat it. And it really shows you the breakdown of everything that you should be thankful for: your eyesight, our breath, our lungs, our feet, our arms, telephones, just any type of communication. And so just those little small things, it really shows you, even though it's a lot of things that's going on in all of our environments, it shows you take those few minutes to really get your perspective and a positive mindset of, hey, I might not have $2 in my bank account, but I still have so much to be thankful for, and it does give you more of a hope on quite a few things. So do you have, because I know you are an optimization coach, if you had a client that was come to you and they're like in a really depressed state, because high anxiety and depression is at the highest rate of right now, what would be one of the first things that you would tell them to practice at home when they're feeling extremely depressed and discouraged?
Okay, so I'll just preface that with saying that, like, yes, I am a coach, but I'm still in training. But, I kind of still want to talk in a perspective that I am going to lead people one day. So as a coach, if I have a client that is faced with that challenge of being in the present moment and, prepping themselves to face things, I would say that trying to develop like a protocol or have a kind of knee-jerk reaction, develop the habit of having a knee-jerk reaction to any form of adversity. But also speaking to developing habits for setting your day up right, so that if things do occur, that you would have gotten certain things out of the way. So those are actually 2 things that I would recommend. So in terms of like planning your days, in terms of preparing to accommodate the possibility of adversity, there's this common concept of what you call like savers. It's like a habit structure. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, reading, and scribing. And I have particularly found this very helpful as I'm not much of a morning person, and when I get up in the morning, I tend to not be one of those who can just jump right out of the bed and just go from 0 to 100. I'm not one of those kind of people. I'm being very honest.
Right.
I'm like an old car that I have to take time to warm up, right? So, I am like that. So, the essence savers is silence, or like I like to say stillness. So you're already laying in bed. The most you could do is just probably roll to your side and sit on the edge of your bed. And you stay in silence. You engage in a prayer, a meditation, if it's a breathing exercise, and that's something I will get back into later on. So you can get into different breath exercises, and that is to make sure that the way how you start your day, it's like planting a seed that's going to grow in a day. Start your day with peace. Start your day with serenity. Start your day with a calm mind. The kind of fruit that you're expected to bear at the end of it is dependent on the seed that you plant at the start. So start with silence. The second thing is that you do affirmations. When you do affirmations, what it simply does is it sets your tempo, your mood. It's like listening to good music, and it hypes you up, or it sets you in the mood to get things done. This is why we have music for the gym. We have music to make love to our beloved. We have music to party with our friends. And the words are like affirmations of what mood you're in. So you want to be in a mood? Affirmations is a good way to set that. Then you could go straight into visualizations. Mind you, you're not starting to move, you're not starting to interact with your phone or anything yet. You do visualization. You imagine yourself doing everything that you have planned for the day, so it sets your mind for success. You also take that time to know what it is that you're working towards in the long term. What is one of your biggest goals that you want to achieve? And from there now, when you get that kind of aroused and excited state of wanting to move, this is the best time for you to exercise. And the good thing is that when you exercise early in the morning, or when you get into some intense activity, or you just do walking or whatever, your body gets like a good energy booster for like a couple hours. So it could give you that kind of booster you need to get energized for the rest of the day. Now, after you're done exercising, you take a shower or whatnot, you sit down and you get your brain ready to absorb information. Your temperature is being raised, blood is flowing properly towards your brain. You can consume information really, really well. Get a book, if it's on financial literacy, if it's on personal development, if it's on language, whatever it is. Get a book, read. Do that for like a half an hour, or how much time you can spare yourself. And right as soon as you have that information, write the thoughts that are going through your head. If it's reflecting on what you have just read, so that you can process the information, and then also you'll just be primed right there to start writing out some thoughts and your intentions for the day. And with that now, you can get straight into the workflow of the day, which is to create, which is what human beings are meant to do. So you start writing, you're getting into a creative mode and production and producing things. So you get ready for work, or if you're an entrepreneur, you get ready to create the things that you need for your enterprise. Now, that's the protocol that you should have. But
I think
now,
all of those are
going back to the silence,
important.
yeah, that's just how you could just start your day. Now, in terms of facing adversity during the day, that kind of knee-jerk reaction I mentioned before. Yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Let me touch on, before we go on to the next subject, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my apologies, but I do want to cool. Make note, because of the people that's listening, they probably don't know that when you first wake up, your mind state is in a theta mind state, and so that's the most beneficial time for you to stimulate your brain. And so with the affirmations, with the other different things you suggested, it really affects your subconscious mind, and so it's able to absorb things even more, and it reduces like stress and anxiety. It's like mind and body healing, like it boosts your immune system and all those different things. So all those activities and things that you said is really at the highest peak time where your body actually receives it on the most significant level.
Yes, that is very, very true. Yeah, I think I may have neglected to say that, but that is very, very, very true. That your brain is like a dried sponge at that point, where it's just ready to soak in the tempo of how the day is supposed to go. So yeah, you're completely right with that. And so yeah, just reiterating on the first one with the silence and prayer and even like the breathing. When it comes to stress, there are two things that I tend to rely on. Now, when I was doing some training, I was doing some paramilitary training in my career. There is something called the OODA loop. It was actually like an assessment practice, or I guess like a system for pilots that was developed by, I think it was a colonel, I can't remember his name right now, but he developed the OODA loop system. And what it is that you observe your situation, you orient yourself, you decide on what needs to be done, and then you act. A lot of times when people are faced with a stressful situation, that is like the part of the response that you should have. So when you keep that in mind, that is the process that you have to take, every time you are engaged in reacting to a situation, you have that protocol to follow. Now, sometimes when we are hit with with a situation that causes us to be anxious, a lot of times people will kind of choke up. Their breathing gets a little bit short. They can't think straight. If it's one thing your brain needs during a situation like that, is oxygen. So it doesn't serve us well to take short, cut up pieces of breath. Take deep, long, bated breath. So there's like there are different types of breathing exercises that help people with stress. And one of the exercises is doing box breathing, where you kind of visualize having a box that is being drawn out in front of your mind, that it takes 4 seconds to draw each side. So in each of the sides that are being drawn in the box is a 4-second delay, so where you take in oxygen for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you take in for 4 seconds again, and then you let out for 4 seconds. And what that does, it starts to help your heart rate slow down, sets the tempo, and when you are calm, you can think straight. Now, a lot of times, people, when we get these bouts of anxiety, the first thing people want to tell us is to relax. But that is like slamming a hard brake from going off at 100 miles per hour and telling them, hey, relax. Like, people are not generally able to do that. Your heart rate doesn't just switch from going from 160 beats per minute to going to a resting state of 70, right? You have to gradually break it down. So sometimes it seems like the counterintuitive thing to do is what tends to work the most. It's, for some odd reason, that's something that we see in a lot of phenomenon with human behavior. So what I learned recently is that it might help for a person to take the bull by the horn. Say, okay, I'm feeling anxious. Good, you're in an excited state. So you know what? Say you're excited. Tell yourself that, okay, I'm excited. Because what is happening is that your body is anticipating, your mind is anticipating a lot of activity going on, and that's what gets us anxious. We are ready to act. That's what anxiety is. We are expecting things to happen. So it's good to acknowledge that, hey, I am in an excited state. Take a deep breath for that 4 seconds. Breathe out. Okay, good. I'm still feeling anxious. Take a next deep breath in. Raise your eyebrows, open your eyes, fix your posture. Sit with your spine straight. Stand up with your spine straight and acknowledge. So for like public speaking, people, when you realize that a lot of people are anxious, and there's something I realized with even some young performers, when they're anxious to go on stage and they're building that little rapport, or even like with a spoken word, you know what a lot of them tell people? Guys, I'm feeling very nervous here. How are you all feeling? And they just try to roll with it. And then sometimes they put on the best performances they could ever do. So sometimes it's good to just, I would say, is being in the moment, acknowledging everything that you're feeling and not just try to resist it. Now, when you kind of get that shock out of the way, then you have control because you are aware of what your situation is, and then you could slow yourself down. And then you can get yourself ready to deal with the challenge that you have faced. That's what I rely on. It has worked for me in a lot of situations. Some of it was, just arguments with people, dealing with high stress situations, bullets whizzing by your ears, all of that. So it definitely does work. If it can work for people in very high stress environments, that's how they take control of situation. Paramedics, surgeons, law enforcement personnel, you name it. People in fire officers, everybody. They have to breathe so that they can function. So the breath is everything. So that's what I wanted to say on that.
Okay, I definitely think that those are methods that are easy for everybody to do, and we all get in those type of situations. So it's something that I will definitely try to implement within my own self as well. So I appreciate you for all these gems that you have dropped on Kicking It with Kira. Before we go, I would like for you to think of a mantra or a motto that you live by and that you would like to share with us.
So in Stoicism, there's a general phrase that is called memento mori, where it basically says that you can leave this place right now, that you can die at any moment. That is one that is very grounded in reality, that if you keep yourself aware of the quick timeliness or the readiness that your body can cease to exist and can cease to function, you will stay on top of things. But I will say this, I would hold a phrase from my father, dear to my heart, and he's still alive, and he says this all the time, especially to people on their birthday. May you live until you die. It basically speaks to the notion that you should be completely engaged and immersed every waking moment of your day. Completely harness it. Completely take part in it. And keep doing that every single day until you don't, and until you are not able to. So I would say, may you live until you die.
That's the perfect way to end this segment. That's a good one. Yeah. So I thank you so much for coming and spending some time and sharing some of your gems. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Yes, thank you for having me here, and I wish all the best for all your listeners here. Thank you very much, Kira.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.